This is not a rules breakdown. It's not advice about encounter balance, character optimization, or world building techniques. And it's definitely not me telling anyone how to run their game. This is me being honest about how I intend to run my game. Over the years, both as a player and as a game master, I've come to realize that at most tables, conflict, frustration, and disappointment don't come from bad rules or bad players. It comes from misaligned expectations. People sit down at the same table using the same rulebooks, but playing very different games in their heads. So what follows is my GMing philosophy. Not a set of commandments, but as a declaration of intent. This is the kind of world I present. This is how I treat danger, monsters, villains, and consequences. And this is what I mean when I say I run a high-trust game. If you're one of my players, this is me showing my cards, so you know exactly what kind of game you're choosing to play. If you're a fellow game master, maybe parts of this will resonate with you, challenge you, or help you articulate something you already feel but haven't quite put into words yet. This is the Midnight's Lair GMing Manifesto. Before we dive in, I'd just like to take a moment to invite you into the conversation. If you're enjoying the kind of discussions we have here at Midnight's Lair about GMing philosophy, world building, old school play, and what actually makes a role-playing game work at the table, then liking the video and subscribing really does help the channel more than you'd think. And I generally love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, or have your own take. That conversation is the whole point. And if you'd like to support the show a little more directly, you can also join the Midnight's Lair Patreon. For $3 Canadian a month, Patreons get early access to the episodes and access to the Midnight's Lair Discord server, a place to talk RPGs, share ideas, and hang out with other folk who enjoy this style of play. That support offsets the cost of running the channel and it tells me that this long-form, thoughtful RPG content is worth continuing. All right, let's get into it. The world is not balanced for the party. Player characters will sometimes encounter situations that cannot be won by fighting. This is not a mistake. It is not unfairness. It is the world existing independently of the party. Running away, negotiating, hiding, tricking, surrendering, or returning later with a better plan are valid, intelligent choices, not failures. Bravery is not measured by body count. It's measured by the character's judgment. Encountered does not mean must be killed. Just because monsters, creatures, or opponents appear does not mean the game expects them to be killed to the last man. Some encounters are warnings. Some are obstacles. Some are forces that are already in motion. Violence is an option, but is not the default solution. The monsters want to live. On average, monsters do not want to die any more than the player characters do. They fear pain and they value survival. Almost all creatures have an innate sense of self-preservation. They care about territory, kin, status, and resources. When things go badly, many will flee, bargain, surrender, or regroup. Victory is not always annihilation. The monsters aren't stupid. Within the limits of their intelligence, biology, and culture, monsters think. They use terrain, they plan ambushes, they retreat to defensible positions, and they call for help. This is not adversarial GMing. This is respecting the world enough to let it make sense. Smart play deserves smart opposition. Alignment describes cultures, not absolutes. When a species or culture is described as evil, that represents the statistical average and not an iron law. There may be good orcs, there may be merciful goblins. There may be individuals who reject their culture entirely, but they are exceptions, and their rarity matters. Likewise, not all human societies are morally equivalent. Some cultures, human or otherwise, are cruel, exploitative, or monstrous in practice. Moral complexity exists, and it's not evenly distributed. Experience is about more than killing. Experience points are awarded for gold earned, enemies defeated, but those rewards are weighted, not automatic. Role-playing matters. Creative problem-solving matters. Clever plans, smart retreats, and imaginative solutions matter. Killing is not the only path to advancement. Sometimes it's not even the best one. Player skill matters. You heard me right, I said player. This game rewards player attention, creativity, and judgment more than mechanical optimization. Asking good questions matters. Observing the environment matters. Planning, caution, and cleverness matter. Character abilities support player decisions. They do not replace them. Information is a resource. Knowledge is often more valuable than treasure. Rumors, reconnaissance, observation, and preparation are core parts of play. Understanding what you're facing and choosing when to engage is often the difference between survival and disaster. Time, resources, and attrition matter. Time passes, resources run out, positioning matters. These elements are not tracked to punish players, but to give weight to decisions and urgency to action. Constraints create meaningful choices. Death is possible, but not arbitrary. Character death is always on the table. However, it's rarely sudden, silent, or without warning. If a character dies, it will almost always be the result of accumulated choices, not a single unfair moment. And whenever possible, it should be meaningful. The risk is real, but most of the time, you'll see it coming. And that might be more terrifying. This is a high-trust game. What I like to call, This is a high-trust game. I run what I like to call a high-trust game. The players have to trust me to know what I'm doing and that I'm going to be fair. I'm not out to kill the player characters. I'm not the player's opponent. I portray the opposition, but I am fundamentally the hero's greatest fan. I want the character to survive long enough to matter. I want them to succeed. I want them to become big damn heroes. That doesn't mean bad things won't happen. I represent the world, not a script. My role as game master is to represent the world honestly and consistently, both its good aspects and its bad ones. I will strive to portray situations as they truly are, not as they are hoped to be. Play NPCs and monsters according to their nature, culture, and goals. Remain consistent within the constraints of the world. The world does not exist to validate the player's assumptions. Just because the characters believe something to be true does not mean it is true. Some villains are truly villains. The party may believe a villain is misunderstood. They may believe the villain is redeemable. Sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're wrong. Some villains are rotten to the core, and always were. Some actively manipulate sympathy, mercy, or idealism. Discovering that truth is not a punishment. It's part of engaging with a living world. Redemption is possible, but it must be earned. NPCs and villains can change over time, but that change must be honest, earned, and consistent with who the character is. Redemption is not granted by optimism alone. If a villain is to change, the player must lead by example or present a genuinely convincing moral or practical argument. Transformation takes time, effort, and risk. Redemption can have consequences. Forgiveness does not erase history. A redeemed villain may be hunted by former lieutenants. Conspirators may seek revenge. Followers may see mercy as weakness. Choosing good can create new enemies for the villain and for the party. Rulings, not rules. I believe in a rulings, not rules approach to play. Rules provide structure, but they're tools, not shackles. When the rules are unclear, or when strict adherence would undermine the logic or tone, I'll make a ruling. That ruling will aim to be fiction first, fair, and consistent. The goal is clarity and momentum, not technical perfection. The spirit of the game comes first. This philosophy is not new. Gary Gygax expressed it clearly in the original Dungeon Master's Guide. It is the spirit of the game, not the letter of the rules, which is important. You are the creator and the final arbiter. This is not a license for arbitrariness. It's a call to responsibility. Characters, not builds. I don't enjoy characters optimized purely for combat. To me, they're one-dimensional, no different than pawns on a board or models in a skirmish war game. I encourage creation of actual characters, people with interests beyond their profession, people with beliefs, fears, flaws, and motivations, people with reasons for adventuring. I care more about who your character is than how efficiently they deal damage. Fiction is my North Star. My taste in RPG characters is informed by fiction, not spreadsheets. I'm inspired by characters found in Thieves' World by Robert Asprin and Lynn Willis, The Black Company by Glenn Cook, The Belgariad and Elenium by David Eddings, The Guardians of the Flame series by Joel Rosenberg, and of course, The Lord of the Rings by the Grandmaster, Professor Tolkien. These characters are memorable because they're human, not optimized. Heroism, myth, and realism. Even the most realistic RPG contains abstraction. Real war does not produce heroes the way stories do. Real survival is often arbitrary and cruel. Role-playing games are not simulations. They're mythic frameworks. Danger is real, consequences matter, but the game allows space for courage, sacrifice, growth, and meaning. This tension between realism and myth is not a flaw. It's the foundation of heroic stories as described by Joseph Campbell. What I'm actually promising. If you take nothing else away from this manifesto, please take this. I'm not trying to beat the players. I'm not trying to win at Dungeons & Dragons, Castles and Crusades, or any other system. My job isn't to protect the characters from harm, and it isn't to engineer their deaths either. My job is to represent a world honestly and then cheer like hell when the characters survive it. I want victories that feel earned. I want danger that feels real. I want heroism that actually means something. The kind of game that requires trust. Trust that I will make rulings in good faith. Trust that players will engage with the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. When that trust is there, something special happens. Failure becomes survivable. Consequences become interesting. And success becomes unforgettable. This style of play is not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you want a living world, real stakes, and a chance to become heroes, not because you were protected, but because you endured, then welcome to Midnight's Lair. The world will not bend for you, but it will remember what you do. Well, I think we'll call this one done. Until next week, when I open the doors to Midnight's Lair once again, be safe, take care of yourselves and those you love, and do good.